to the Good Morning Show. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton on a Friday. Not just any Friday. If you celebrate, it is Good Friday. Today is the day that you go out and you find your favorite fish fry of them all. At least for most of us. That's the way it works out. Now, if you do not celebrate, per se, happy Friday to you. And I hope that your Friday is treating you well so far. I hope that you are getting to work safely. If you're one of those people who has to go to work, I was driving in, and it was a nice, smooth 40-minute drive from where I live in Slidell. Barely anybody on the roads right now. It was wonderful. I was able to hit cruise control most of the way and just have a nice, easy drive in. That's what I'm talking about. I'm also talking about us having a great show. We have a couple of visitors from the Louisiana legislature coming in. We have State Senator Royce Duplessis, who's going to be visiting with us, as well as State Representative Mandy Landry. We have our regular visit coming also from New Orleans and Company, and Liberty Bank is going to be hanging out with us as well. Definitely can't wait to have those conversations with Senator Duplessis and Representative Landry to see what's going on in the state legislature right now. We have lots of questions. We have lots of concerns. There are a lot of bills out there right now, a lot of bills that are very interesting. There was one that I just put my eye on from McMakin that calls to abolish the Louisiana Board of Regents. Following the same logic, I suppose, of abolishing the Department of Education, I just saw this bill, and I'll see what I can find out about it in just a little bit. It is there we go. It is pending the House Education Committee right now. But McMakin has a lot of interesting ones out there. Of course, we talked about one of those bills, not too long ago, a few days ago. And so we're going to get some updates from our good Senator Royce Duplessis, our Representative Mandy Landry from the state of Louisiana, to find out what's going on with them, and also to find out what they are taking a look at overall in the Louisiana legislature. And so here we go with, again, a Good Friday. And hopefully you are planning, or you're able to have a restful weekend this weekend. I'm going to try to get as much rest as I can this weekend. It ain't going to happen. I'm a part-time college instructor, and so I have stuff I got to grade, man. I have assignments I got to grade this weekend. I got a lot of assignments I got to grade this weekend. So I got, in the course I'm teaching right now, I have 25 students. I going 50 assignments I got to grade this weekend because they had 2 assignments due. But of course, you're not going to cry for me. You don't care. Now, of course, you can check us out, and I'm sure you are checking us out on the radio at 12:30 a.m. on WBOK. You can also check us out on Facebook. Go to WBOK 12:30 a.m. on Facebook. We're streaming live there right now. We're also streaming live at WBOK on YouTube, and we're streaming live at WBOK Media on Instagram. So please hang out with us and let us know what's on your mind. Leave a comment. And, of course, the phone lines are open, 504-582-9422. We're also streaming live at WBOK1230.com and the Play Ode app. And today, excuse me, a couple of things that I had my eyes on. So, excuse me. Oh, goodness gracious. My voice will not cooperate as we open the show. And that was kind of nasty. I'm sorry about that. But one thing that I saw from NOLA.com, reported last night by Marie Fazio, a federal judge ends New Orleans special education oversight after 11 years. The story says that a federal judge has ended monitoring of special education in New Orleans schools, ruling that systemic failures raised by families more than a decade ago have been addressed through many have been addressed. Although this article does give the to be sure many problems remain. So to be clear, this article is not saying that the problems have been solved. It is saying that a federal judge has ended monitoring of special education. U.S. District Judge J.C. Zaney ended 11 years of federal oversight in an order on Wednesday, which came after the school district and state said that they had met requirements of a consent decree and should be released from monitoring. But Zaney also acknowledged ongoing challenges for students with disabilities in the city's charter schools, citing testimony from parents, students, and advocates last year about the issues that they had experienced, such as not getting services that they are legally entitled to. Excuse me. The monitoring stemmed from a 2010 lawsuit filed by the Southern Poverty Law Center on behalf of a group of students with disabilities who attended public schools in New Orleans. The group sued the state education department, alleging that their children were turned away or denied services after most New Orleans schools were converted to charter schools after Hurricane Katrina. In a 2015 settlement, the parties agreed that the court would monitor the State Department of Education and Orleans Parish School Board to ensure schools followed the law. The oversight included regular audits by an independent monitor to ensure schools comply with special education law and enrollment, discipline, identifying students with disabilities, and providing special education services, is what the article says, again, by Marie Fazio at NOLA.com. Filed on behalf of 10 New Orleans families, the initial lawsuit accused the city's charter schools of turning away students with disabilities, failing to properly identify and evaluate students who may have disabilities, improperly disciplining students with disabilities, and often failing to provide them services required by law. Since the consent judgment was put in place, the graduation rate for New Orleans public school for New Orleans students with disabilities has improved by 20 percentage points. Statewide, by the way, and this is what Fazio writes parenthetically, statewide, the same rate grew by over 30 percentage points during that period. New Orleans students with disabilities have made greater gains on state tests over the past 2 years than students with disabilities statewide or in similar districts, according to data compiled by New Schools for New Orleans. The Southern Poverty Law Center special education advocates have acknowledged the improvements, but they still strongly opposed the school board and State Department of Education's February 2025 request to end monitoring. They pointed to ongoing special education issues at schools across the city and raised concerns that schools could backslide without federal oversight. So again, that story by Marie Fazio on NOLA.com. This was actually posted about 18 hours ago. So late last night, this story was posted that a federal judge ends New Orleans special education oversight after 11 years. Coming up in just a little bit, State Senator Royce Duplessis is going to be joining us, and he's going to be talking about legislation that he has his eye on. One thing in particular is the Louisiana Voting Rights Act, Senate Bill 365, SB 365. He's going to talk about that in just a little bit. And then we're also going to have State Representative Mandy Landry, who's going to call, and she's going to talk about what she has her eyes on in this session that's going on right now. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton on the Good Morning Show on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Kubel, and here are today's headlines for you. A former New Orleans teacher is now facing 60 additional charges accused of using artificial intelligence to create deep fakes using real photos of teens. Benoit Cransack, a former teacher at Isidore Newman School, is accused of using photos pulled from social media to create explicit images. Cransack remains in custody at the Orleans Justice Center, and prosecutors say the investigation is ongoing with the possibility of additional charges. A New Orleans City Council committee takes new steps to make our streets safer, approving an action plan. Transportation committee members outlined a plan to prevent more tragedies, approving the first step for a multi-million-dollar safety plan. The goal is to cut traffic deaths in half by 2031 by upgrading lighting, curbs, and crosswalks. And the crew of Artemis II is officially headed to the moon after a final major engine firing last night. The historic trip marks the first time humans left Earth's orbit since 1972's Apollo 17 mission. The crew is expected to return to Earth on April 10th. And that is a look for you at today's headlines. I'm Elizabeth Kubel for WBOK. Have a great day, everyone.
New Orleans, are you ready for a voice that says what you're thinking? Who that, you might ask? Arrington Gavin. That's right, I'm your guy, host of The Arrington Gavin Show, giving you so much filled with bold opinions, real conversations, and zero sugarcoating. We're going to be diving into the issues that matter, politics, pop culture, and all the above, unfiltered and unafraid. Catch The Arrington Gavin Show weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Fridays, right here on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton. I hope you are having a great Friday morning. Good morning to the Facebook community. Fern Ware, good morning to you. Paul Jensen, good morning to you. Good morning, Linda Lewis. Thank you so much for tuning in, as you always do. Love the Facebook community. The Facebook community stays on it. You keep us alert. You don't let much get past you. You let us know stuff. You know, love the Facebook community. Thank you so much for being engaged. So we're waiting on State Senator Royce Duplessis until we get him. We are going to take a look at a couple other news items. As a matter of fact, this one, oh man, this item from NOLA.com, very interesting. 2 New Orleans assistant city attorneys resign after using AI in federal filings, officials say. Marco Cortellano is the one who filed this story late last night, and they resigned. I mean, this is wild. I mean, we talk about AI, and people talk about their fears when it comes to AI, and this is really interesting because now what's happened is that the city attorney's office has had to implement an AI policy mandating that attorneys disclose any prior use of artificial intelligence in their work. Now, this is actually something that is becoming a common practice, by the way, that if people decide to use AI in their work, they cite it. So it's just like anything else. Before I get into the story, it's just like anything else, right? You cite your sources. As a matter of fact, again, as an adjunct college instructor in academia, if we use AI in anything that we do, which it is permissible, But if we use it as a thought partner per se, then we have to disclose that as a source. And so the two assistant city attorneys have not been identified. But this is and the story is very short. Basically, all we have on this thing is that they have used AI in their federal filings, and this is a concern because one of the things that we have to think about is that regardless of the platform that you use, and a lot of us have our favorites. A lot of people favor ChatGPT. I personally favor Claude. Other people favor Gemini, Perplexity, all these other AI platforms. But the thing that you have to be careful of is that when you use AI, it pulls information from across the internet. And in doing that, you're not necessarily sure all the time where the information is coming from. So what could happen is that you could wind up plagiarizing without realizing that you're plagiarizing. One of the prompts that I always do in my work is I ask AI to cite where it pulled information from so that I can be aware of that. And so, as a matter of fact, I just wrote an ebook. And I use AI as a heavy thought partner throughout the ebook, but I do state explicitly in the ebook that AI was used as a thought partner. The problem comes when people decide to use AI as the author. That's the problem. That is the big problem. And then it's an even bigger problem when you use AI as a thought partner, but you don't tell anybody that you're doing that. So for all we know, these city attorneys, the assistant city attorneys, they probably went ahead, they used AI. They could have used it as a thought partner, but they didn't tell anybody that. They didn't cite the source. And so that is something to be really, really careful of. And so when it comes to that story, it's not necessarily saying that they did something wrong. It's the thing is that they were not thorough in what they did in making sure they cited the sources. And that's the kind of thing you got to look out for when you're using AI. We got a caller on the line this morning. We got Ken Jones on the line this morning. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Eddie. Well, here's the thing. Claude, it's funny you talk about Claude. As some people know, I am a lawyer, and we go to continuing education every year, right? And in the course of that, they instruct you on AI, how to use AI, and things like that. There is a case it's about 4 or 5 years old now, where two lawyers did the same thing in federal court, and they got zapped for it. Instead, they doubled down and said, oh, no, we didn't do that. Now, when it generates cases, you need to go back and check the cases just as you would in academia. Check the research.
Absolutely.
Not only ask where it came from, but check it. I'm sorry about that if my phone is talking, but long and short of the story is this is not new. This has happened, and any lawyer worth his salt and who has kept up with the law knows these are probably young guys. They thought they were, getting a jump on the game. It just doesn't work well sometimes. Now, on Claude, at the most recent CLE, the instructor was using Claude, and Claude will lie to you. And call it AI hallucinations is what they call it.
Yep.
And he had the whole query on the board saying, he said, Claude, why did you make up these fake cases and things and tell me that? I just want to make you happy was Claude's response. Now, you talk about scary.
Yeah.
That was downright scary. So for what it's worth, people, watch using AI, check the sources, do the stuff. In my work as a lawyer, I may use AI to find negative case history or positive case history, but I always go back and look up the case to make sure it exists.
Absolutely,
because I can lose my license for doing so. And so other people could get in trouble for the same. But thank you, Eddie, for the time, and watch out for that AI, man.
Man, definitely, Ken. Thank you so much. And Ken is exactly right about that because that's what I do. So I will use AI as a thought partner. But when it provides the source, I go check the source myself. As a matter of fact, this has happened to me when I was actually working on an article, and in working on this article, I asked AI for citations. I was actually using Gemini, and I used it I asked it for citations. Gave me that was a blog, actually, a blog on my own platform. So it gave me a citation, and if I had just taken it at face value, I would have gotten myself in some trouble. But it didn't look right, and especially since it's an area that I research. So knowing that this is an area that I research, I just looked at the citation and I thought to myself, something is not right about this citation. So I dug and I dug and I dug and I dug and I dug. And as it turns out, I could not find that citation to save my life. I did not use it in the blog post. All right, we're going to take a break right now. We do have State Representative Mandy Landry on the line, so we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get to Representative Landry in just a little bit. I'm Eddie Francis, in for Will Sutton on the Good Morning Show on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
City Park is where to go when you don't know where to go. Turn towards the city center and start walking. Before long, you'll end up where you belong, at the heart of the city, New Orleans City Park. Stroll along the reeded marsh, wander through the sculpture garden, rest and recharge beneath ancient oak trees. This is where your spirit goes to grow. It's in our nature to yearn for nature. NewOrleansCityPark.org, heart of the city.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month from the Community Scientist and Rise St. James. This month's focus is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, formed when fuels like oil, gas, wood, or trash are burned. These chemicals can enter the air we breathe and settle into our soil and water. Many PAHs are known carcinogens, adding to the health burdens faced by communities living near industry. Learn how to protect your health at risestjames.org.
Transform your bathroom with the beautiful quality of Bath Planet. As a trusted leader in bathroom renovation, Bath Planet has earned the Good Housekeeping seal, a symbol of quality and consumer confidence for over 100 years. Get half off installation or 18 months with no interest and no payments. Whether it's tub replacement, a shower replacement, or a tub-to-shower conversion, Bath Planet makes your custom bath fast, easy, and affordable. Here's how it works. 1. Call to schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. 2. Our design experts come to you with real samples to customize your dream bath. 3. Our certified installers complete the transformation in as little as 1 day. And right now, for a limited time, you can upgrade your bathroom for 50% off installation or choose 18 months with no interest and no payments. But you need to call now. This special offer is only available by calling 800-981-8177. That's 800-981-8177. Call 800-981-8177 right now before the offer ends.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show
Good morning.
on WBOK.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much to the Facebook family for joining. Mel Ma has joined in, and Jacqueline Wilmore, thank you so much. And so Professor Martinez says, go to books and resources as you would 20 years ago, as we were talking about the AI issues just a little bit. And so I got to tell you, Prof, in my home office, I'm surrounded by books. I have stacks of books. There are 2 textbooks on leadership that I love to reference. I love to reference these things. And I will sit there because I have all my pages marked of some of my favorite theoretical frameworks and all that stuff. I will sit there and pour through those books. And I got a bunch of other books that I go through, but I will also a lot of times make sure that I can find excerpts of books to verify sources and that sort of thing. So thank you so much, Professor Martinez. Really appreciate you. Joining us this morning is one of our state representatives, and State Representative Mandy Landry, District 91. Good morning, Representative Landry. How are you?
Good early morning. I'm good. It's Good Friday. We have a long weekend, and happy to be home for a few days.
Yes, I know you are. So, I think
Right.
I think putting it mildly, we have a lot going on in this session. And actually, we were just talking about AI, and so there's something that you seem to be taking on in the state legislature. This is part of conversation, and it's AI in political campaigns. Um, Talk about that.
Yeah, so we actually have something like 20 bills in the legislature to regulate AI, and almost all of them, it looks like, are going to die quickly because the president has issued an order essentially saying that states might lose a lot of money if they try to regulate AI.
Wow.
So I don't know, right? I don't know how much we're going to get through. And this governor actually vetoed my first veto a couple of years ago, a pretty strong bill regulating AI in campaigns. So what I'm doing this year, it looks like it's going to fly under the radar, is require a pretty strict, blatant exposure in Louisiana if you are using an AI-generated image or video. And it's not, I would say it's getting some side eye, but it's not something so far that people think they can oppose. So we're looking for some disclosure on that because, I mean, this stuff, you can't tell what's what anymore.
Right, right. And that seems to be, what the biggest issue here is. I mean, we we have issues with deep fakes and that sort of things, especially in political campaigns.
Yep.
And that is really, really troubling because obviously the more advanced the technology gets, the harder it is to tell what's what. And so this is interesting that it seems like it seems like a lot of these proposals, it looks like they just won't make it, and so now we voters are going to have to be more vigilant than ever in what we're looking at in campaigns.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. And, you can't regulate all of it. It's the same way we all receive those anonymous pieces in the mail, the really dirty hit pieces. And, sometimes they know who it is, sometimes they don't. So you can't regulate everything. But we need to start being a lot more honest with voters, in particular online, where it's impossible to tell. And it's too late often when something comes out about a person that it's hard for them to fight back and say, well, that's not me, and it looks exactly like them. So hopefully this will get some of our local candidates to think about it before they do something like that.
So a big concern to the WBOK audience and many folks throughout New Orleans are all of these bills that, as we see, seem to be targeting the New Orleans court system. I know this is a broad question for a few bills, but can you give us an idea of which one may have the most impact in your opinion and where we are with these bills?
Oh, yes. So I'm on the Judiciary Committee in the House, and we spent hours last week going through this. It was brutal. Every year there's some hot topics in Baton Rouge, and usually there's something involving New Orleans. It's very easy for them to pick on New Orleans. And this year they've gone down the road of attacking our judicial system. And a lot of this comes from a handful of people and policies, I would say, that are just constantly going after New Orleans for petty political reasons. But some of it is, when crime is at a certain level here, it gets a lot of attention from everywhere in the state. But it's also easy for Republicans and people outside to score some political points. And so they keep hitting on that we have too many judges. And it's a really dishonest argument to me because you can't just look at, okay, we have 10 people, we need 2 judges. Our cases here are so different. We have 19 million people visit here each year. We have people come in daily for work. All the asbestos cases in the state are happening, or most of them, I think, are happening down here. Those cases can take weeks. class actions. Our court systems are very different than elsewhere. Did you know a quarter of all trials in Louisiana happen in Orleans criminal court? Judge Lombard told us that last week. So it's really an apples to, puppies situation. We're not even talking remotely the same thing. And it's done in bad faith. They drafted all these bills without involving a single Orleans judge or a single Orleans legislator. And that tells you all you need to know about the subject.
Is there anyone in particular that seems to be going through a little bit faster than others, or are there any being debated on the floor at this point?
So the House one is slightly ahead in the process. That was in committee with me last week, and Candace Newell was in there. We had our judges come in. That one will probably be heard on the floor next week. That's the nuclear option. It combines all your courts, essentially. I use the word combine the clerks. They're trying to get rid of Calvin Duncan basically before he takes office. It's pretty obvious. Yeah, it's pretty brutal and obvious, and that of course is personal for the most part to him. They're trying to combine the courts and essentially cut the judges in half. I say that's the nuclear option because on the Senate side, there's a senior senator who has, it's like 3 or 4 different bills, a few bills from the appeals court, judges from the appeals court, a few judges from the civil, a few from the criminal. It seems more likely those might go through with a lot of revisions. However, the nuclear bill, I think they're holding it over us in a sense, threatening, saying this is how far they could go. And, this governor has a lot of power still.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about, and I always like to ask U.S. Representative Troy Carter about this whenever he visits us on WBOK, but I like to ask him questions about working with people on the other side of the aisle. In the state legislature, do you find that there are colleagues on the other side of the aisle that you can work with, or that other Democrats can work with as far as making sensible moves on these bills?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on the issue. I think when things get a little too far, we can see in the background that there's starting to be division among the Republicans. There's so many of them now that they're starting to break apart into pieces. And the senior ones and the ones in leadership will realize to a certain point, hey, this is going too far. And there is a lot of discussion in the background on these courts bills. People realize that, it's Orleans today. Who is it tomorrow? That definitely happened. Yeah, well, we're trying to convince them of that more. The DA Association and the sheriffs stick together, and it's more difficult for the judges to do that. There's so many of them. But there are plenty of Republicans who will help me through an issue when I need a little bit of a push. But for the most part, with Democrats, I have to go clear what I'm doing with many people. And I have to make sure it's something like the AI and politics bill that everyone sees a value in. And we have to work harder. Democrats have to work a lot harder than Republicans up there because we have so many more people to clear it through. But I do have to say when something this dramatic is happening, like the courts bills, there are people getting involved and realizing this is going a bit too far.
So this is one of those situations because when the listeners have voiced concerns about these bills, we have a robust Facebook audience, and so when they voice concerns over the past couple of days, my biggest thing has been this is the time to get on the phone or to email your senators and your representatives and to put the pressure on them to say, listen, these bills don't make sense. And I think you brought up the right description, petty. As far and I'm one of those people who I don't necessarily talk about the ideology in these cases. I talk about the behaviors. And so for me, the behaviors themselves they're just petty. And so I think this is the right time for citizens to get on the line and put the pressure on their representatives and their senators to say, hey, listen, just do the right thing. Do you think that is a realistic strategy for citizens right now?
It might be one thing to say we need to reform and revisit I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer here for a long time. There are plenty of improvements we could make to the judiciary, both in the city and in the state, and that's a good argument to have. Maybe we need to make some major changes with these courts. But that's not the discussion we're having. It's just cut people who don't care really how they might affect things. And so much of it is New Orleans politics involved in this. And that's kind of shameful, too. All your Orleans members are on board. We're all on the same side of this, and we've been talking about it almost daily. But I know you have people listening who are in Jefferson Parish and St. Bernard and St. Tammany, who, they can help sway their reps on these issues because most of them are Republicans. They can definitely help sway. And I think the bigger parishes, Jefferson and EBR, who have a lot of judges, should be wary that next time someone wants to save a few bucks, that they might be next on the list.
I think that's a great argument, actually. So you're hearing that from a guy who does PR. I think that's a great argument. So
you got to twist it. You got to give them what they want to hear.
Well, but then the other thing is that it's logical. I mean, it really is logical when you follow a pattern of behavior, and I really think that makes a lot of sense, honestly. So let's shift gears a little bit. We talked. You mentioned Calvin Duncan. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Duncan a couple of weeks ago. And I just love his story. And one of the things that we're seeing in a lot of states right now, we're seeing a lot of colleges and universities give people who are incarcerated the opportunity to earn their degrees. And so there's a measure that you're looking at right now that offers good time for incarcerated individuals who earn degrees. Talk about that.
Yeah, that bill is halfway through the process. I got it through House committee and the House floor with flying colors. Your listeners probably remember a couple of years ago, the legislature severely cut good time. A person has to serve 85% for the most part. There are a handful of ways they can reduce their time, and one is through education and certificates on training. And I've worked with the Department of Corrections a few times for issues on the women's prison, and they asked me to carry this, which was interesting for the Department of Corrections to ask me to carry it. But they're looking to add people who earn an associate's degree or a shorter degree. A lot of people can't earn a bachelor's. It's just not going to happen. But an associate's degree to get some time off. And it has become the most popular bill I'm carrying this year. No matter where you are on the spectrum, people recognize that 85% is a long time. We want people to be better prepared when they leave prison, and that something like this to help expand the opportunities is definitely going to lead to better outcomes. And I'm hoping we can keep expanding this next year. But yeah, getting some good time at the end for an associate's degree is what we're doing now, and that it's going to pass.
Yeah. And I have to take this opportunity to give a shout out and say good morning to my friend Marco Salvaggio at Tulane, who's the director of the Tulane SOPA Operation Restoration College and Prison Program. So that is something that is very interesting to see. Tell us about hospital price transparency. What's the work being done there?
So I haven't presented that yet. That's going to be a little bit of a fight. Interestingly, we all know you go to the doctor, especially the hospital, and you get a bill, and who knows what's on it and for how much. And what hospitals are supposed to do under federal law is tell you how much things are going to cost and have it publicly published, so that you can say, okay, I need a mammogram. It's $400 at Ochsner, but it's $300 at Toro, and you should be able to go and look at that, because a lot of us nowadays have really high deductibles. So you end up having to pay a lot out of pocket. And the Trump administration, interestingly, has started to come down hard on hospitals and facilities that aren't doing that, because one of the things he's doing, like him or not, he's been pushing on prescription drugs and hospital price transparency. So all these hospitals are supposed to do this under federal law. They don't. Only some of them do. And so we're trying to put a structure in place where the State Department of Health is has control of them, has oversight control over them. And there's pushback already because they won't be able to send you to medical debt collection if they don't tell you the price. They won't be able to chase after you if they don't, do what they're supposed to do. So it's the right thing to do. I think I'll be able to get it through the process with some amendments, but it's just kind of interesting how businesses, claim it's too expensive to do something that they are required to do for consumers.
So speaking of the healthcare system and doing things for consumers, what about pharmacy benefit managers? There's some work being done there as well. What is going on there?
That's probably the biggest issue in the legislature overall this year. It's a little complicated. A pharmacy benefit manager is kind of the middleman between a big pharmaceutical company and your local drugstore. They negotiate the prices of the drugs. It's quite complicated. And the positive generally of that is it seems that we get lower prices because of buying in bulk and whatnot. But the negative is that they're driving independent pharmacies out of business and becoming, monopoly might not be the best word, but something along those lines. And it's a very hot topic because you don't have these small pharmacies in much of the state. However, for most of us in big cities, we go to Walgreens and CVS anyway, and there's some rural areas that they now have a Walgreens. So it's become kind of a hot issue because these PBMs operate in a space that most people are not a big fan of them. But for others, those of us in Orleans in particular, I said, I can't help you regulate this industry unless you promise me my constituents' drug prices are not going to go up. Mm-hmm. And so we're working on that. It's not a great industry, how it operates, but consumers come first. And that's going to be what we're focusing on in this process. It's confusing to voters, but they're going to see a lot about it because it's happening nationwide.
So I think that's something to dig into. We have a couple of minutes left here. When an issue is confusing to voters, what is the best thing for them to do to get clarity on it?
It kind of depends on where they are on it. I mean, obviously your Google nowadays gives you everything you want to know. For Louisiana, you can go watch all of our committee hearings live, or you can watch the tape of it. I like a lot of the smaller newspapers, like news outlets, the Illuminator, the Lens, Verite. They get into detail on issues. The Illuminator has someone there every single day, and the Times-Pic has people there most days writing on it. But you have to poke around to find out what's going on. And there's just so many issues nowadays and so much media that for someone who wants to know what's going on, you got to do a little homework yourself.
Yeah, well, no, I think that's a great recommendation, though, to look at outlets like the Illuminator and Verite and those types of outlets, because I agree, the Lens, because they do dig a little bit more deeply into these issues. So that is very, very much appreciated. So thank you so much for visiting with us this morning, State Representative Mandy Landry, District 91. And I hope you can have a restful weekend before you get back at it on Monday.
You too. Happy Easter, everyone.
All right. Same to you. Thank you so much. We're going to be back in just a little bit. Representative, or I should say State Senator Royce Duplessis is in the house, so we're going to talk to him in just a couple of minutes. I'm Eddie Francis, in for Will Sutton on the Good Morning Show on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
On Auto Trends with JeffCars.com, here's a snippet of some of what we cover. GPS pioneer Gladys West.
We worked long hours computing trajectory orbits and satellite orbits, trying to get the data and everything correct enough.
Auto analyst Mark Bland.
14 new vehicle deals that happen in this country out of every 100 that women don't have a fingerprint on.
To tune in, check out Auto Trends with JeffCars.com, Saturdays at 4 p.m. on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by FidelityInvestments.com. McKissack & McKissack is the oldest minority-owned professional design and construction firm in the country. And Chair of the Board Cheryl McKissack Daniel wants to help share her family's story. She wrote a book titled The Black Family Who Built America, The McKissacks, 2 centuries of daring pioneers. And she says she wrote it in part to help retell the story of American history, which often doesn't include the contributions of Black Americans.
Now, the name of our book is The Black Family Who Built America, but of course we didn't build all the buildings in America, but Black people had largely a big hand in building a lot of the structures in America, and we're like the hidden figures. And it makes sense. I mean, history and books follow money, power, and authorship, not necessarily labor.
McKissack was recently named the next chair of the New York Building Congress. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Pros, just because something on the job runs out doesn't mean you have to. Order it on the Lowe's app. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members get free same-day delivery on eligible orders over $25. Get the fasteners, hardware, or tools you need to keep the job moving. Order by 2 p.m. and get eligible in-stock items delivered right to your job site by 8 p.m. Members get more at Lowe's. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Subject to availability. Restrictions and terms at lowes.com/shipping terms. Subject to change.
David was in big trouble with the IRS.
At first, I didn't owe that much, but after this year, it was out of control.
Then David called Get a Tax Lawyer.
Right away, they were like, oh yeah, looks like you're qualified to say
Get a Tax Lawyer went to work.
Should have called way sooner.
Get a Tax Lawyer has helped thousands like David fight the IRS and get a fresh start.
Call 800-745-3070. That's 800-745-3070.
Good morning.
Wake up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Show. Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton. Happy Friday to you, and of course, happy Good Friday to you. Joining us right now is State Senator Royce Duplessis, District 5. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Eddie. Good morning.
I listen. So we just got Representative Mandy Landry. She gave us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of activity. Something that you are watching very closely, though, right now is the Louisiana Voting Rights Act. Let's jump straight into it. What do we need to know about that legislation?
Well, the first thing that we need to know and be reminded of is that the Federal Voting Rights Act currently it weighs in the balance before the United States Supreme Court. We don't know what's going to happen with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. This idea, this principle, this value, this right of equal representation in our voting laws is in question right now in the Calais versus Louisiana case. So with that being the case, with the constant attacks on voting rights historically, especially in states like Louisiana, states can no longer sit back. And what we decided to do is put forward a state version of the Voting Rights Act. So essentially, we're not going to wait for the United States Supreme Court to act. We're going to put this legislation before the Louisiana legislature to say where we stand on voting rights. We understand the challenges that we face and the numbers that we're up against, but the reality is that we have to affirm either we're for this or we're not. So it's in many ways modeled after the Federal Voting Rights Act, which has been weakened since 2013, where we no longer have pre-clearance by the Department of Justice anytime there's a change in voting laws. It'll in many ways mirror what we've had in the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
One of the things that I just asked Representative Landry about was working with folks on the other side of the aisle. On the Senate side, how do you see that? Do you find that there are folks you can work with on the other side of the aisle? Her take was when it just becomes kind of a bridge too far, folks are willing to cooperate in a bipartisan way. What are you seeing on the Senate side?
Yeah, well, in the House and in the Senate, Democrats are in the super minority. So we need Republicans to pass anything, just given the math. I'm talking simple majority. You need to be able to work with Republicans. And I do agree in that there have been instances since I've been in the Senate for certain where there have been policies and bills put forward where our Senate president and our leadership has said, we're just not going to touch that. So we don't make a big noise out of it, but you'll just realize that, hey, whatever happened to that bill? It just kind of went away.
Yeah.
And the Senate has always tried to be that kind of body in the legislature. But I'll tell you, it's getting even more difficult in the Senate, where some things that should not be getting legs, in my opinion, are getting legs and getting debated in the manner in which it's being done. I know there's been a lot of discussion around the bills that are targeting the judiciary in New Orleans. Just the way and the manner in which those bills are being presented, in my opinion, really compromise and bring down the Senate in ways in which it shouldn't. Because I just think that there's no way in the world you should have legislators from outside of a parish in this way attacking another parish without even giving them the courtesy and the respect of talking to them in advance. And the Senate should operate differently, in my opinion.
Yeah. What is the behavior around those bills right now? The Orleans judicial system bills on the Senate side. You said that it's a bit more difficult to deal with them nowadays. As far as the progress on the Senate side, what are you seeing? Or what do we need to know, I should ask?
Well, 3 bills advanced out of committee on the Senate side, and now they are before the full Senate. We don't know if those bills are going to be taken up this upcoming week. We are currently working to try to see what we can do to amend those bills. But yeah, right now, three very harmful bills to the judiciary in New Orleans made it out of committee. All the data, all the facts were presented in committee. None of it mattered. We laid it out. It wasn't an emotional argument. It was my colleagues from both Orleans and outside of Orleans made great points about how this will actually slow down the docket. It will make it harder to get justice in Orleans Parish if these bills pass in the current form that they're in. But none of that mattered. They still advanced out of committee. So here we are now on the Senate floor. We're working to try to stop these bills, or to try to weaken their impact.
Representative Landry, one of her arguments was that the messaging to the other side of the aisle is, listen, if you decide to go with this, Orleans Parish is first. East Baton Rouge could be next. Caddo could be next. All these other parishes, you could be next. And you think you have a friend, but you don't really have a friend.
Right. It's always a bad precedent anytime you do this. So this type of operation is a huge violation of the Golden Rule, because none of them would like it or allow it if New Orleans did this to them, or someone from any other parish did this to their parishes. So that's an absolutely true statement, that this opens the door for this to happen in any parish. So why go down this path? But the fact is that New Orleans has always been a target, and especially now while we are in the difficult financial situation that we're in as a city. Yeah. So this has always been something that Baton Rouge has tried to do, and now they see an opportunity to do it, and they're doing it in the worst way.
A broad question, but what else do the citizens need to know about what's happening in the legislature right now? Anything that you have your eye on?
Yeah, well, again, the Voting Rights Act legislation that I filed, that'll be heard in committee this upcoming week after we return from Easter. So voters and the people of New Orleans should really pay attention to that. There's a lot of talk and other efforts afoot around things like, say, higher education. We always have to continue to work on protecting investments around early childhood education. We have 5 constitutional amendments that are going to be on the ballot in May that our people should be paying attention to. And just always staying engaged on issues across the board from every corner of this state. It's important that our people pay attention and stay engaged. We have We have to continue to fight on trying to lower the cost of insurance. That's something that I've been working on over the past several years. I serve on the Senate Insurance Committee. So we should watch who's doing what when we talk about lowering the cost of insurance, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. That's another big fight that we're having right now in the state of Louisiana. So I think people should really be paying attention to those issues.
We have Reverend Calhoun on the line this morning, and he is someone who has really, really sounded the alarm on the judiciary bill. So let's get Reverend Calhoun in really, really quickly. Good morning, Reverend. You're on the line with Senator.
Good morning, gentlemen. I
Royce
trust
Duplessis.
all as well. Doc, I have a question concerning your bill. This senator from West Monroe, constitutional amendment to give the governor and the legislature the power authority to remove and install judges in New Orleans. And I take it since this constitution is going to be across the state. I don't know if it's for everybody. But how does your bill impact that? Does your bill in any way, because to me, this is what they're trying to do, is take away our rights to vote. So could you just explain, does your bill in any way can impact this constitutional amendment the senator from West Monroe has proposed to take away our voting rights on how to install and remove judges? I'll sit back and listen.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Calhoun.
That's a great question, Reverend Calhoun. So the bill that you're talking about is a constitutional amendment that's being put forward that would give the legislature the ability to begin a process to remove judges that it's such a bad bill that this particular legislator has just had this thing for going after judges, particularly judges from New Orleans. There are real questions around the constitutionality of this bill, whether or not it's constitutional. It's a badly worded bill because in the bill they have the word incompetent. And I want to make it clear for the record that I don't support judges who are not doing their job. And we should have a process in place to remove judges. But let me tell you, we have a process in place to remove bad judges. It's called the Judiciary Commission. And guess what? We also have another process to remove judges in the state of Louisiana. It's called elections because we vote them in, right? And we vote them out. So this process is an absolute overreach. My bill would not directly stop something like that from being put before the voters, but the voters should understand that bill is absolutely anti-democratic because it does essentially undermine people's rights and people who we elected these judges. So you're saying if we elect these judges now, you can just in the legislature, you get to decide who's incompetent because the bill currently doesn't even have a definition of what incompetence is.
Yeah,
I asked this senator point blank on the mic, what's your standard of incompetence? Couldn't come up with one. So you can basically go after whoever you don't like. And there's no definition in the bill. He says, oh, that's coming. But that speaks to the level of arrogance and cockiness and disrespect in which legislation is being put forward right now. They don't even have a definition of incompetence in the current version of the constitutional amendment. But yet you want the people of Louisiana to vote on this and trust that this process is going to be fair. It's purely political. And people have to see what's going on. And I know that the people see what's going on. Everybody sees this for what it is. And we have to just be vocal about it and call it out and stand up and vote it down if it does make it to the ballot.
State Senator Royce Duplessis, District 5, thank you so much for joining us on the Good Morning Show. And thank you so much for getting us updated on what's happening in the session right now.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you. I appreciate you.
We're going to be back in just a little bit. New Orleans and Company. We're going to have our visit from them. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton on the Good Morning Show on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
WBOK New Orleans, home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
I'm Bree Wood.
Wood with BIN News Now. A fire on an upper floor of Wayne State University's Maccabees building sent heavy smoke across Detroit, Michigan. Wayne State University's Black Police Chief Anthony Holt credited months of preparation for the smooth evacuation.
Excellent response, and it shows the preparation that we do ahead of time into fire evacuations and drills. Everything just went like clockwork.
The high-rise was safely evacuated and no injuries were reported. Atlanta police are investigating the shooting of a child. Officers say a 7-year-old boy was shot 3 times at the Ashley Cascade apartment complex on Kimberly Way early Thursday. Atlanta News First reports the boy is expected to live. And the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee is honoring Martin Luther King Jr. with a 3-day free public commemoration that has already begun and concludes on Saturday, on the 58th anniversary of his assassination. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton. I hope that you are having a great Good Friday. And whatever you're going to be doing in the way of fish fries, if this is your big day for fish fries, I hope you're able to find the right one. Just the right one so that you can have the tastiest fish you've had in a long time. I don't know what it is about Good Friday. Well, I do know what it is about Good Friday fish. That's pretty much better than any other fish. We always get the opportunity to talk to our good friends at New Orleans & Company. Joining us this morning is Kelly Schultz. Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Hey, Eddie, good morning. You're making me hungry talking about all the good fish fries out there.
You know, so the funniest people to me, well, not the funniest, but I'm down with it, are the fish fry hunters. Like, they will go and they will find whatever they can find throughout the Lenten season, and they're like, okay, go to St. So-and-so for good fish fries. So, but you know what? There's some people who are trying not to eat too much today, and those are the people who are going to be in the Crescent City Classic tomorrow. And so
That's right. That's right. 20,000 people are going to be out there. Crescent City Classic is actually sold out, and wow. They're getting ready for their run. And it all starts tomorrow. This is actually the 47th year of this race, if you can believe that.
Wow, I can't believe it, because I remember when it was a young event. So that it's really
grown, and I love the way that they market this event. They call it the only second line with the finish line, which I think is very clever. And this is something that, of course, it attracts visitors, and we're seeing pretty good hotel occupancy throughout this Easter weekend, not only for the Classic, but for all the other, Easter parades and things that are going on around the city. But it also is a tradition for locals. I know many, many locals. There's a team from New Orleans & Company who will be participating, and many, many locals make this part of their annual holiday tradition. So it's one of those things like Mardi Gras, where it's really just a beautiful blend of locals and visitors coming together. And today, actually, all day today from 10 to 7 at the Hyatt, there's a free health and fitness expo. Oh, wow. So people can go over there and check out different exhibitors who have nutrition products and fitness services and different educational classes and things like that.
So are you getting your stretches in? Are you on the team for tomorrow morning?
You know what? I am days away from knee surgery, so I wish I could be out there, but I've got to get my knee fixed, and then hopefully I can walk it next year. I am in awe of who can run a 10K, but that's the beauty of this event, is that, you don't have to run it. You don't have to be a a marathon caliber runner. I mean, it's very family friendly. People are out there walking it. They're enjoying it. And then, of course, at the end of the race, you have the Michelob Ultra Race Fest, which is a big celebration at City Park. So I am not going to be out there, unfortunately, but a big team from New Orleans and Company will be there.
Well, speedy recovery after
Thank
your surgery.
you. Thank you. Just a little thing I got to get fixed. So
Yeah, I know the knee thing. It is not pleasant. Now, one thing I wanted to tag on to this before we move on to something else that I really think is very cool is the philanthropy by the Classic, and that is the Run for It charity program. Talk about that really quickly.
That's right. So, they really support the community, not only through the economic impact of this event, but also for the charity component. So it's called Run for It, and it raises $1 million annually for local nonprofits. So, they like to say that whoever crosses the finish line first, everyone wins. And so this is something that we're grateful to them for giving back to our community, and it's just a really great event. So there's fitness, there's fun, there's music, there's food, and I think the best part is giving back and the philanthropy component.
Yeah. Now, one thing, every time I talk to friends of mine, who I constantly have friends from out of town who are asking me, when I come to New Orleans, what should I do? And I always tell them, try to make it for the spring festival season. If not the fall festival season, but definitely the spring festival season, because that's just when everything kicks off. So what are folks at New Orleans and Company looking forward to in terms of the spring festival season?
Well, we like to say that, what some cities call their annual festival calendar, we call April. I mean, there's so much, there's so much going on throughout the city, and New Orleans and Company is proud to be a sponsor of many events, including the French Quarter Fest. So, French Quarter Fest is coming up. We've got the Jazz Fest coming up. We have Hogs for the Cause. We've had the Congo Square Rhythms Festival going on. Also, in the middle of the week are Wednesdays at the Square, which have started up. So it's not just weekend activities. I mean, there are things in the middle of the week, too. So we try and tell people also, this is a beautiful time of year. It's mild weather. We're really focusing on a regional drive-in audience right now and encouraging people to take that spring break, take that little spring getaway. We're certainly also encouraging them to plan their summer travel. But what a beautiful time of year to come to New Orleans and enjoy these festivals. And then we also know we have many people in town this weekend, not only for the Crescent City Classic, but also for the Easter parades, and how many amazing local restaurants have beautiful Easter brunches and jazz brunches and things like that. So it's one of my favorite times of the year to live here, and it's definitely something that we market to people to come and take advantage of.
So we have some transformation going on the riverfront. The Audubon Nature Institute is putting the finishing touches on the Gold Ring Waldenberg Riverfront Park. I've seen some of the renderings for this. Where are we with that right now, and what are we looking forward to?
Well, it is really, when we talk about transforming the riverfront, I mean, this is really going to be a game changer, and they're preparing to. I believe the plan is for it to be ready for French Quarter Festival, to become part of the footprint of French Quarter Fest, which is April 16th through 19th this year. So we're great partners with Audubon, and I actually had a chance to preview the space and kind of a hard hat tour recently, and it really is going to transform that sort of warehouse area at the Governor Nichols Street Wharf and turn it into a really vibrant public green space. So they'll have landscaping, they'll have trees, they'll have seating that faces the river. For the kids, they'll have kind of a marsh-themed playground that is inspired by Louisiana's, natural environment. So it may not seem like a big deal, but when you see it, it's really incredible. It's really going to give our local residents an opportunity to connect with the river in a way they really haven't been able to do before. And of course, it'll basically connect, get people access to the river from Spanish Plaza all the way to Crescent Park. So that's over 2 miles of connection, and it'll be one of the largest contiguous riverfront parks in the entire country.
So we're going to take a break right now. And Jaira, we're coming back to Kelly, right? I just want to make sure I'm doing this right because, Will is the pilot of this thing. I'm the co-pilot, and I'm not paying attention half the time. So I just want to make sure.
I can stick around if you want me to.
Yes, we are going to go ahead. And, Kelly, we're going to take a quick break right now, and then we are going to come back. But in the meantime, Kelly Schultz from New Orleans & Company is joining us, and we're going to do a quick wrap-up about what else is going on around the city. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton on WBOK. What New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Kubel, and here are today's headlines for you. A former New Orleans teacher is now facing 60 additional charges accused of using artificial intelligence to create deep fakes using real photos of teens. Benoit Cransack, a former teacher at Isidore Newman School, is accused of using photos pulled from social media to create explicit images. Cransack remains in custody at the Orleans Justice Center, and prosecutors say the investigation is ongoing with the possibility of additional charges. A New Orleans City Council committee takes new steps to make our streets safer, approving an action plan. Transportation Committee members outlined a plan to prevent more tragedies, approving the first step for a multi-million-dollar safety plan. The goal is to cut traffic deaths in half by 2031 by upgrading lighting, curbs, and crosswalks. And the crew of Artemis II is officially headed to the moon after a final major engine firing last night. The historic trip marks the first time humans left Earth's orbit since 1972's Apollo 17 mission. The crew is expected to return to Earth on April 10th. And that is a look for you at today's headlines. I'm Elizabeth Kubel for WBOK. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, this is D. Riley from the 90s Hits R&B Jams. Make sure you listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday night from 7 until 9 p.m. I'll be giving you the best R&B jams from the 90s. That's right, all your favorites and more. With me, D. Riley, your host of the 90s Hits, right here on WBOK 1230 AM. Or listen online at WBOK1230.com. WBOK, the station you listen to longer.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton. Kelly Schultz from New Orleans & Company is joining us for their regular visit to let us know what's happening around New Orleans. And, Kelly, for me, I love to talk about distinctions when it comes to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. I love to talk about when we get recognized. And here is the one that is most interesting. I actually met for coffee the other day a friend of mine who came down from Michigan. And she just sat there and looked around. We were actually at French Truck Coffee at the corner of St. Charles and Canal. And she's looking around and she goes, I love this place. I've been in New Orleans several times. I love this place. This place is magical. Yeah. As it turns out, as people may or may not know, New Orleans has been named one of the 10 safest destinations in the U.S. for women traveling solo. And that might come as a surprise for some people. Tell us about that. Yeah.
I think it does come as a surprise to people, but we're really proud of that honor because, our city's made tremendous strides when it comes to public safety. And of course, we still have work to do, but the fact that, we're at a 50-year low in homicide rate, that's credit to the NOPD and all of their partners. And so, but there's still a lot of perceptions out there about safety. And to be able to say that we are recommended for women traveling alone, that is, it just immediately implies safety, right? And so that's one of the awards that we've won as one of the 10 safest destinations in the United States for women, and that was done by a company called OnlyInYourState.com. We've won lots of other awards too. Right now we have several of our restaurants that are eligible for James Beard Awards, which recognize excellence in the culinary world. So those will be announced in June in Chicago. But you've got E.J. Lagasse of Emerald's. He's a finalist for Emerging Chef. The team, Donald Link and the team from Link Restaurant Group, so that's Pesh, Herb Saint, Koshan, they're nominated for Outstanding Restaurateur. And then Chef Anna Castro and Chef Serene from Dakar, Anna Castro from Akamaya. They've been named finalists for Best Chef in the South.
Chef Serene doing the good stuff. So let's talk about one that I find very interesting as far as recognition. New Orleans named as a best U.S. city for bleisure. So tell us about bleisure.
What a word, right? But bleisure means blending business travel with leisure travel, and we're seeing that as a big trend lately. And so we're happy that Business Travel Executive Magazine named New Orleans as the best city in the country for bleisure. So they took a look at if people are traveling on business, how much do they choose to extend their stay. If you're coming for a convention, perhaps you stay a couple of extra days on the back end and attend a festival, or come in a little bit early to be able to take advantage of Crescent City Classic or something like that. And they found that New Orleans was the best city in the country for this. And so they looked at a bunch of data and travel bookings, and New Orleans came in number one. We actually beat out Las Vegas and Orlando, which are big competitor cities for us. So we're really excited about that award. And these awards, people pay attention to this stuff, and it really does influence their travel decisions when they see us, kind of ranking high on these various lists for culture and safety and, leisure or whatever it may be.
So I know of a group that actually did this. So the Hampton University National Alumni Association decided to have their annual meeting in New Orleans this summer. They scheduled it the week after Essence Fest. And so and it was so funny because my wife is the president of the local chapter. And so as they were having these conversations, one of the questions that came up was, so wait, when is Essence Fest? And so they scheduled their annual meeting, and so we were laughing about it because we're going, oh, how many of them are going to be here for a week? And so they are. This is bleisure. They are definitely doing bleisure. This is actually really funny to me. I love this, actually.
It is, and a lot of people are doing that. It makes a lot of sense. We work with Essence, of course, and we work with all the big groups that come into the city and small groups too. We just had 15,000 members here for the American College of Cardiology meeting. Mm-hmm. And, those are people from all over the world who are coming to New Orleans. Next year, we're going to have about 5,000 people here for something called IPW, which is a U.S. Travel Association conference. And that's a big deal because these are international travel agents and international journalists who can influence a lot of people to come and visit New Orleans. And so that is a big deal for us to be able to host next year. But it falls right in between the weeks of Jazz Fest. So we're looking at the conference schedule and saying, how can we make sure people stay at the conference and don't blow it off and go to Jazz Fest in the middle of everything?
So one of the most respected outlets that's on this list is USA Today, 10 Best Reader's Choice Awards. And one of our festivals made it. One of my personal favorites, the Beignet Fest. And so talk about Beignet Fest earning that honor.
Yeah, we love the team over at Beignet Fest. They were named number 8 on USA Today's list of the 10 best awards for the best specialty food festivals in the United States. So, if you think about the entire country and all of the fantastic food events that happen everywhere, for us to be number 8 on a list of 10 is pretty good. And so this is, again, more national recognition as one of the best places for food festivals. I know Beignet Fest continues to grow, and this is also something that has a charitable component to it. I believe they support causes related to autism. And so, we're happy to see Beignet Fest get recognized along with the James Beard Awards and the Bleacher Award that we talked about. There's a lot of good things that are being talked about for New Orleans.
You know, one of the things to me that, I always joke with people about this is that every time I travel, I feel just by telling people I'm from New Orleans, I'm a celebrity. Every time I tell people, it's like, Eddie, where you from? New Orleans. Oh, I just love New Orleans, and it's they start gushing about the city, and it's funny because the conversation changes completely after that. Like it could be people who are pretty quiet throughout the conversation, but as soon as I say I'm from New Orleans, they open up, and it becomes a whole different conversation. Of course, they start telling their, I remember when I got wasted in New Orleans stories. But I mean, other than that, I think a lot of us, when we go out of town and we visit other places, I think this is a sign that a lot of times we take what we have here for granted because other people see us as really, really special.
That is so true, and I experienced that also. I mean, I was lucky enough to be born and raised here. I grew up in St. Bernard Parish, and now get to promote the city for a living. And you are absolutely right. Like when you talk to people and you say you're from New Orleans, you do automatically feel like a celebrity, and they just light up and they tell you about the time they were here in college, or maybe they got married here. I mean, I know a lot of people that come in for a convention, or, I met a couple that they met at Jazz Fest and then they come back they got married and now they come back to Jazz Fest every single year to celebrate. There's so many special connections and memories to this city. And like you said, your friend from Michigan, she looked around and said, what a magical place. That is such a genuine feeling that people have when they come here. And I'm envious of your friend because I grew up here, so I don't know what it's like to experience that magic as an outsider for the first time. But it's really cool that she had that experience, and that is replicated by millions of people over and over and over all year long. And so we've got to keep working to make sure that magic remains and that we foster this culture and keep working hard to win those awards and bringing in the people so they can benefit our entire community.
Yeah, I had the pleasure when I was doing marketing communications in higher education. I had the pleasure of working with very closely with a higher education company out of Ohio, a marketing company. And one of them, I think, said it best. And she said, and this actually wound up being part of a rebrand strategy that we were doing. And she said, New Orleans just celebrates the human spirit. And I think that is probably the most appropriate description I've heard of us and how we operate and why we tend to be so magnetic to other people. I mean, we don't see it, but other people see it.
No, I think that's very well said. And I don't think, I'm obviously a little biased, but I don't think you get that reaction if you tell people I grew up in whatever city or state. You don't get that reaction that you get when you tell people you grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. Like it really is a special place, and we try and remember that, and feel lucky to live here and work here, and keep working hard to keep those visitors coming.
Yeah, that's what the dog thinks too. I'm glad the dog agrees with us. By the way,
sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry about that. They're crazy. I know.
That is okay. The dogs know what they're talking about. They absolutely know. So one thing I want you to close out with very, very quickly is next week we have the Hondo Rodeo Fest. Tell us about it.
Yes, this is a first-time event in New Orleans. It's coming to the Caesars Superdome April 10th through 12th. It's a rodeo competition, and it's also live music. So they've got some pretty big-name talent. There's Jason Aldean, Cody Johnson, Creed, and then there's going to be a Western-themed street fest in Champion Square. So they'll have food, music, local music, and family-friendly entertainment. So this is another one of those first time, sporting events that have a huge loyal following, like we're doing the X Games in July. We talked about last time I was on the show, the Savannah Bananas that were here in March. And so we're really excited to welcome the team from Hondo Rodeo. And this is something that, as far as I know, they're selling out and there's a lot of interest. And again, this will bring a lot of people to the city.
Well, make sure you get the dogs to the nearest fish fry. I think that's what they're barking about right now.
I will say the dogs' names are Rue and Magnolia, so at least I have, appropriately named dogs.
I love Rue and Magnolia. There we go. Kelly Shows from New Orleans and Company. Thank you so much for joining us as always. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Eddie.
All right. Well, coming up next, we have our friends from Liberty Bank coming up. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton on the Good Morning Show on WBLK with New Orleans and talking about all day long.
Hey everybody, it's Graylin Bryant Banks
and Kimber White Dupree
from the Front Porch.
Some combos are too good to miss. Now you can pull up a chair to the Front Porch anytime.
Just search WBOK Media and subscribe to the Front Porch Podcast.
Download, share, and hit us with a 5-star rating because New Orleans culture deserves to be heard loud and clear.
City Park is where to go when you don't know where to go. Turn towards the city center and start walking. Before long, you'll end up where you belong, at the heart of the city, New Orleans City Park. Stroll along the reeded marsh, wander through the sculpture garden, rest and recharge beneath ancient oak trees. This is where your spirit goes to grow. It's in our nature to yearn for nature. NewOrleansCityPark.org, heart of the city.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month from the Community Scientist and Rise St. James. This month's focus is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, formed when fuels like oil, gas, wood, or trash are burned. These chemicals can enter the air we breathe and settle into our soil and water. Many PAHs are known carcinogens, adding to the health burdens faced by communities living near industry. Learn how to protect your health at risestjames.org.
The Ron Kelly Show. Real talk, bold truth. Tune in for your weekly dose of unapologetic conversations that don't dodge the truth or dilute the message. Stay informed on the issues that matter most on The Ron Kelly Show. Every Monday at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m.
New Orleans, the city of festivals and second chances. This is Mr. Rocky of Faithers in Jesus the Christ, inviting everyone to come to the table of grace, no matter where you are or what you're dealing with, guilt, bad habits, mistakes, or heavy hearts. Jesus still calls us his friend, and his grace is waiting for us. Tune in to WBOK 1230 a.m. or watch live on Facebook or Instagram. We'll reflect on his work on the cross, his resurrection, his ascension, and the hope of his return for we who that believe and have received him by faith. So join us at the table of grace, where mercy is fresh, forgiveness is real, and grace is served for people like you and me.
This is The Law in Your Legacy. I'm attorney Pete Hamilton.
I'm attorney Ryan Hamilton.
When it comes to family planning, should you go with a will or a trust?
A will is like leaving instructions to the court. It tells them who gets what, but your family still has to go through a succession, which can be costly and time-consuming.
A trust, on the other hand, avoids court altogether. So when the time comes, everything transfers smoothly to your loved ones.
It's a little more work up front, but way less hassle and expense later. Plan smart, save time, and take care of your family.
This is not legal advice. That's just a tip brought to you by Liberty Bank and Trust. For more information, go to libertybank.net or contact us at 504-915-5016.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton. Joining us, as always, our good friends from Liberty Bank, Dr. Angele Thibodeau Burns. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning.
And also joining us, attorney Ryan Hamilton. How are you, sir?
I'm good. They don't let us call us ourselves doctors anymore, though.
They do have a JD.
Don't,
but,
hey, man, don't make me get into it. So I worked in higher education. So I know how the doctor battles go, and it's boy.
I'm on the lowest rung of doctors.
Man, listen.
The MDs, the PhDs,
Listen.
the EDs.
So this was actually a funny conversation, and I did not make it any better. So I have not gotten to the doctoral level. My wife is a PhD actually, but when I was working at Suno as a director of PR, I was sitting with Ron Mason in a meeting in Baton Rouge. Ron Mason was the president of the Southern University System. He has a JD. And he just had this thing, like in the first meeting, where he just started picking on people. And and at one point, he goes, because somebody called him Dr. Mason. And he said, well, not necessarily, blah, blah. I have a JD, He said, although, if you want to be technical about it, you really could call me Dr. Mason. The PhDs in the room just all turned around.
They clenched their pearls, huh?
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you? And don't you dare be somebody who has been awarded an honorary doctorate by some university.
Oh, yeah, you're getting into it now.
Call yourself doctor. That is them fighting words, man. Them fighting words. But anyway, we really appreciate you joining us, as always, on the show. And Ryan, you want to talk to us about some pretty interesting things as far as financial health. So, Angel, I want you to introduce this by saying to the audience what you said off air about we talk about all these different types of health, but we need to talk about
financial health. We think about physical health, mental health, but then financial health. And then if you're stressed out behind finances, it can actually affect your mental and your physical health.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Been there, done that. And we have peaks and valleys. We have seasons in our different areas of health. But that financial health, if we can't get that stabilized and under control, it can really dictate how we feel. Physically and mentally. And so we really want to help people and support people in how to make that happen. And you work your whole life and you buy a home or you have these insurance plans, and it can all go sideways if you do not have instructions on how you want this to be when you're not around. And so I'm hoping Ryan can help us with that today.
Ryan, you have a menu of things that you want to talk about. It could be savings, investments, real estate, other assets, wills, trusts. So where do you want to start? What is probably one of the biggest things that you can think about as far as financial health to reduce the stress?
Right.
Certainly, having a plan. I think that's, I would lean on Angel for the financial planning, but where I come in, it would be the estate planning, right? You've worked your whole life, you've saved your money, you've set it all up. Now, how are you going to transfer it to the next generation? If you don't plan, the state of Louisiana has a plan for you.
Wow.
And you might not like that one, right? So you need to find out what that is, right? Who do you want to leave your things to, whether that be by a will, or whether that be by a trust. And we kind of talked off air, what is some people think that you have to be this multi-millionaire to have a trust. I would say the entry point is at least owning a home, right? And you want to direct, maybe you want to say my family should not sell this home. They should, rent it out, rent one side out, and anybody comes in town, they can stay on the other side. And then you have that income to keep that going.
Keep it in the family.
To keep it in the family, right? Or whatever you want to restrict or how you want to do that. You can only do those things through a trust. And then we also talked about, having these big insurance policies being worth more dead than alive, unfortunately.
Yes. It makes me happy and sad at the same time. My husband and I, we got insurance as soon as we got married because we were much younger and the plan was more affordable. And then we realized as we got older, we tried to shop it around, and it was more expensive to go elsewhere, a different plan, because it was better just to keep the plan we had. And once we started looking at how much we had paid into these plans, I don't want to lose these plans.
That's right. Yeah. You're stuck in them. And you also want to control them
That's right.
Yeah, so that's where it's saying, okay, if you just leave it to them as the beneficiary, your children or whoever that beneficiary has full control to use that money for whatever they want, however they want.
Yeah.
Whereas if you set up a trust and you have a trustee that restricts that money, that says maybe, you can only get $100,000 a year, or maybe you can only get a certain amount of money to purchase a home, or whatever restrictions make you happy.
So we can protect our children from themselves.
That's right. Yeah.
And we can pace them.
So that brings up a question.
What you got, Eddie?
Because I recently had this conversation with a friend about something happening in her family, and she has an aunt, and her aunt is like, okay, so I'm mad at so-and-so. They're coming off. And I'm going to add so-and-so as the beneficiary. 2 months later, she gets upset with that person. She changes it up again. What do those conversations, in your opinion, need to look like, Ryan, before people make these decisions? Because when you get to a certain age, as we all know, once you get those names on there, you never know when we're going to check out and when those names are going to become permanent. So what is your recommendation for having those family conversations?
I think you really have to trust the trustee, right? You really have to trust that person, that whether that be the executor in the will or, a power of attorney, whoever you're giving authority to act on your behalf. I think you should have watched them over a number of years and brought them along. And maybe you might not know exactly how someone manages their finances, but if it's your family member, you might have some idea, and you want to really say, look, this is what I have. You want to let them know the plan, and you want to pick someone who's responsible.
I mean, to me, it calls for having some honest conversations, because we've all heard the story of so-and-so left such and such to so-and-so, and then the person who was left to just, I sold that house. Wow. It's all kinds of stuff like that.
Right. And then you might have had the person that was in control that was supposed to give it to your beneficiary, but they didn't do it. They ran off with the money, or they, all type of stuff. So you got to really be careful. And of course, people are always going to change their minds. There's some of that, maybe some beneficiary did you something wrong, and all right, got to write you out.
but not because Ray didn't pick you up that day to go to the store. Don't take him off the policy.
No, not because of that. We got to have some, some more egregious things going on.
Well, for instance, I was thinking, I'm a Xavier graduate, and if I want to leave a little something to Xavier, are those instructions in the trust, or do I need to do that separate and apart from the trust?
No, I mean, you could do that in the trust. You can say, hey, the trustee will know I'm leaving X amount of dollars that should go. Now, you can give it all in one lump sum to Xavier, or the trustee every year can say, I give this amount to Xavier every year. So it's really, think of a trust is a contract. So anything you can write up in a contract, you can write up in your trust. Whatever you can come up with, as long as it's legal, right? We can't require people to do illegal things. But other than that, whatever you want to do, you can write the rules in a trust, and a trustee is supposed to follow that.
So, Ryan, would I say, for instance, you help me write up this trust, which actually my husband and I actually have an appointment with Ryan, because this is hitting home, it's hitting close. So we would make the appointment, we'd set this all up. Someone is going to be in charge, say my children, but then after I pass, would they meet with you, or how does that work?
They would. So for starters, you'd be in charge, right? You'd likely be all three parties to the trust, the settler, the trustee, and the beneficiary. You'll be in control, and you'll benefit from your things. And then you'll have a list of who's going to be in line to be the trustee, and then who will be in line to be a beneficiary, and what restrictions you're going to place on that beneficiary. Okay. And then you'll get a big trust binder, and in the first section, it'll have instructions to your successor trustee to contact me. and what they need to do, right, you should have, part of doing a trust is being organized and having everything up front. So you should have all in this binder, all your accounts You know, what properties you own. Anything that the trust owns, we want to make a note of it and have it in one place so that whoever's in charge doesn't have to go searching all around for it. And that's the routine problem with a will, because typically wills sometimes just say, everything I leave it to my children.
Exactly.
And,
And you don't know what
and
everything
you don't know
is.
what everything
Right. You
is.
don't know where everything is. Yeah.
And then you don't have authority until the judge makes someone an executor to go even look at banks. You walk up into the bank and say, yeah, my mom died. Okay. Well, do you have authority? And you can show them the will. They're like, great, go get me a judge's signature. You know, so now sometimes even if you do a will and you don't put anything together, it's like you're leaving your heirs a maze to run through.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
To protecting savings.
Okay.
How can people do that?
I'm gonna lean to you on protecting savings. I guess we could do a CD at Liberty Bank.
Yeah.
What does that even look like to protect savings?
Well, when we think about the different savings, we always try to talk to people about having that short-term savings, long-term savings. Short-term for emergencies, money you can get to. Long-term maybe for buying a rental property, and then the retirement savings. And we try to get people to keep those separate buckets. And then once you have those separate buckets, or even if you have just one of those buckets, you have to have those beneficiaries named on every type of account you have. No matter how big or small it is, you have to have those beneficiaries. And then you want to name the percentage. You know, is it a 50-50 split, 25%, 75%? You know, however you decide to do it, you have your reasons. You saved this money, and you've got to keep those beneficiaries updated. So you need to talk to, for instance, your children. Sometimes they'll continue to change the emails. They may move around, but like you got to just try to keep a cell phone, the same cell phone number. Try to encourage them, even if you use different emails for different things, just explain, child, I'm making you the beneficiary, and God forbid something, well, it'll eventually happen to all of us. They're going to contact you. So that's the first step, keeping all those beneficiary contact information updated. But then, wouldn't we name all those savings accounts, those in the trust?
Right. If you were going to do a trust, you would name the trust as the beneficiary to all those accounts. That's right.
Okay, so the trust.
The trust would be the beneficiary. That way it would come into the trust.
I like that.
And then whatever rules you had to restrict that money will then be in place. Because same thing, if you just name your children or whoever as the direct beneficiaries, it's theirs. They can do what they want with it.
So in this case, would we change the information of the beneficiary for each of those accounts?
Absolutely.
To the trust?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to restrict it. Now, some people, you have somewhat younger children. As your children age, that might not be as important. You might say, I'll give it straight to my children because, they're 50, 60 years old and responsible. But typically, yes, with anybody who's putting restrictions on what they would want their children to inherit, is going to go to the trust and then be regulated by the trust.
So that's interesting too. So you have the option to choose if everything goes into the trust, or there might be, for whatever special little reasons, you might
want to leave something out. Yeah. So step one, we create the trust, which is the magic box.
Step one. Okay.
Step two, we have to then put all the things in there, right? Okay. And so for real estate, that's actually donating it into the trust or quit claiming it into the trust. And that is recorded at the parish records, right? At the clerk's office. So just like when you bought your house, you signed an act of sale. That's recorded in the land records, and we know that you own your house. You'll then, from you, sign an act of donation and record that in the land records. Now the trust is the owner of the house. So when you pass away, the house is not in your name, and that's part of the reason why you don't have to do a succession, because you're transferring everything out of your name personally into the trust.
Well, what if you, like, for instance, my husband and I, we have our home mortgage with Liberty Bank. Would we need to then how does that work?
Yeah, you
with
would just
informing
you would just inform them and let them know. But there is the Garn St. Germain Act that your primary residence, even though it has a mortgage on it, the bank is not going to use the due on sale clause because this is your primary residence and because you're establishing a trust. So there's a federal law that allows you to transfer your house in and maintain the mortgage. Now, if you had a bunch of rental properties with mortgages on it, now you have a problem.
Yeah.
The bank may not allow you to transfer it into the trust because that's not your primary residence and you have these open mortgages. But if you had the mortgage in the LLC, we could do the LLC could keep the mortgage and then we could transfer the LLC into the trust.
Huh. So this is
wow.
so I we're talking money, but honestly, this is more to me a conversation about family communication.
Yes.
This is really much more because I'm running through a lot of conversations that I want to have right now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh man, we didn't talk about that. We haven't talked about that. And I also remember, when my parents passed, I remember my brother, sister, and I just asking each other a bunch of questions. Well, where does this go? Where does that go? How did this happen? What is that? There was land. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff mixed up into these conversations.
Yeah.
And there were some questions we had zero answers to, and we was just trying to figure out how some of this stuff even went. So
in the midst of grieving.
In the midst of grieving.
That's
So
right.
you got to
Yeah.
figure that part
Yeah.
out. Like
Right.
how you can even think straight
Right.
to make an informed, reasonable decision.
That's right.
And also what I'm hearing in this is that we're talking also family legacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if you think you have nothing, you still have a legacy.
Keeping
Yeah, you
what
have
you
something.
have.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is worse than someone has worked their
Your
whole
whole
entire
life, yeah.
lifetime, and then to lose it all just because the paperwork's not there. The
Yeah.
paperwork's not in order.
So one thing I wanted to close out with is assets. And I want to bring up again, because, you're talking about protecting the investments, real estate assets, and other assets. But sometimes for a lot of us, for black folks, we look around, it was like, I ain't got no assets. This house is a dump, and all I got is this car that's not even paid off. What are assets? What if we think we have nothing, what can we look at and say, oh wait, that actually is an asset?
Your retirement account, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there because you need to start. If you have a job, a 401k, the company will match it. So that's free money if you get a match. And then that is protected from lawsuits. So if you want to talk about protecting assets, that doesn't require you to establish some complex structure and have a Wyoming LLC and all of this stuff.
I think that's what people think, though.
Protect your retirement.
It's
At a
already
minimum.
by law. If that money is in there, that's protected from loss. It has liability protection because it is your retirement account. So protecting your savings, that's like a baseline level to, contribute to your 401k and your IRA.
How do people begin making a list of what they have or assets? I mean, is it a spreadsheet? Is it writing it down in a notepad?
Whatever floats your boat. I mean, I have some clients that are very detailed and they've got a PowerPoint presentation.
A slide deck. Yeah.
They got a slide deck of what they have going
Attorney
on.
Hamilton,
Yeah.
if you would direct your attention.
and some, like you say, some loose leaf, yellow notepad, whatever it is, that anything you've got. Just get started, right? And what do you want? It doesn't matter what it is. I've had some people direct my radio. I want my radio to go to this person. I want my sofa to go to that person. So you
Sentimental items,
you have things that you want to direct. Maybe you don't need a trust to do that, but you have something that you can talk about, and you need to at least start with a will or power of attorney or some base level plan.
So, Angel, probably the most important question, because this has been a very involved conversation. Mm-hmm. How can people contact you if they have any questions?
Yeah. So, Ryan, how do we get in contact with you?
You can call 504-915-5016. That's 504-915-5016. And you can set up a free consultation.
And Ryan is also on social media.
Yes, at RC Ham Law.
Yes. And, of course, you also hear the vignettes here on WBOK.
Yes.
And so we have that as well. Attorney Ryan Hamilton, thank you so much. And Azelle, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
for
us as
having
always.
us.
This is extremely informative. I have to admit, my head is spinning slightly, but I think it's great that we spill this information out to the audience and do this brain dump. And by the way, Azelle, you're a great co-host, by the way. Azelle just jumped in. She was like, so Ryan.
Yeah.
I have thoughts,
Well, it's personal too, because it's like I'm all about education. So lifelong learner, teacher, but also I'm learning as well. So sometimes by asking the questions, I'm learning myself.
I always say leaders learn and learners lead. I say that
think
all the
you
time.
got it all figured out.
That's when
you
you're
got
in
a
trouble.
problem.
That's when you're in trouble. Thank you so much for joining us. As
Thank
always,
you.
our friends from
Happy
Liberty
Easter.
Bank. I'm Eddie Francis in for Will Sutton. We're going to close this thing out in just a little bit. This is the Good Morning Show on WBOK, where New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is The Law and Your Legacy. I'm attorney Pete Hamilton.
I'm attorney Ryan Hamilton. Comparing the cost of will, successions, and trusts.
A will might only be a few $100s, but your family could end up paying more in legal fees.
Trust costs more upfront, but saves time, stress, and potentially thousands.
Think of it as paying a little now to avoid a big bill later. Smart planning means big savings for your family. This is not legal advice. That's just a tip brought to you by Liberty Bank and Trust. For more information, go to libertybank.net or contact us at 504-915-5016.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by FidelityInvestments.com. McKissack & McKissack is the oldest minority-owned professional design and construction firm in the country. And chair of the board, Cheryl McKissack Daniel, wants to help share her family's story. She wrote a book titled The Black Family Who Built America, The McKissacks, 2 centuries of daring pioneers. And she says she wrote it in part to help retell the story of American history, which often doesn't include the contributions of Black Americans.
Now, the name of our book is The Black Family Who Built America, but of course we didn't build all the buildings in America, but Black people had largely a big hand in building a lot of the structures in America, and we're like the hidden figures. And it makes sense. I mean, history and books follow money, power, and authorship, not necessarily labor.
McKissack was recently named the next chair of the New York Building Congress. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Pros, just because something on the job runs out doesn't mean you have to. Order it on the Lowe's app. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members get free same-day delivery on eligible orders over $25. Get the fasteners, hardware, or tools you need to keep the job moving. Order by 2 p.m. and get eligible in-stock items delivered right to your job site by 8 p.m. Members get more at Lowe's. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Subject to availability. Restrictions and terms at lowes.com/shipping terms. Subject to change.
David was in big trouble with the IRS.
At first, I didn't owe that much, but after this year, it was out of control.
Then David called Get a Tax Lawyer.
Right away, they were like, oh yeah, looks like you're qualified to save.
Get a Tax Lawyer went to work.
Should have called way sooner.
Get a Tax Lawyer has helped thousands like David fight the IRS and get a fresh start.
Call 800-745-3070. That's 800-745-3070.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
A majority of us, as indicated by numerous polling results, oppose the war in Iran. We watch in astonishment, along with the rest of the world, as our erratic president unleashes chaos by his ill-advised decision to join the Israeli prime minister in a questionable attack on Iran. This appears to be a classic case of the tail wagging the dog. Since when in the hell did an American president subjugate its decision to go to war to a foreign government? Though President Trump refutes any suggestion that he was talked into the attack by Israel's prime minister. But here we are, a month into a war with no definitive explanation as to why and no damn exit strategy to get out. Mr. Trump can't seem to make up his mind. First he said it was because Iran was just weeks away from producing a nuclear bomb. Intelligence experts say there is no evidence that Iran was capable of a nuclear attack or that they presented a threat to the United States. Plus, Trump had already bragged about knocking out Iran's nuclear capability with a bombing raid earlier this year, an obvious example of Trump contradicting himself, which should surprise absolutely no one. Trump also talked about going to war to force a regime change in Iran. The Iranian regime, folks, is still intact. What we have now is a chaotic mess created by the president of chaos, resulting in worldwide economic disaster and a war-torn Middle East. Even worse, the cost to human life. An American bomb exploded on an Iranian middle school, killing over 100 children. The Iranians have been fighting back. 13 American soldiers have been killed and scores have been injured. Incredibly, in the midst of all the chaos and tragedy, Trump just went on TV in a nationwide broadcast telling us he's winning big. Well, he's definitely winning big if that means alienating our NATO allies, the majority of whom oppose the war. He's really winning big if he means closing the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran has done in retaliation, inflicting global economic instability. If this is winning, Mr. President, I shudder to think what losing looks like. It's past time for the spineless Republican majority Congress to enforce the War Powers Act and take the keys away from a delusional grandpa who wants to be king of the world. This is Norman Robinson, Off the Top.
Hoops, Heat, The Truth, on demand. Ball Don't Lie is now live on all podcast platforms. Tap in, search WBOK Media, find Ball Don't Lie, and bring the fire with you wherever you go. Download, share, and leave that 5-star review, because the game doesn't stop when the show ends.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Many thanks to our guests, and many thanks most of all to you, the folks hanging out with us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram Live. Really appreciate it. You have made it a great week, and the week has passed by really quickly. I'm going to be back on Monday, actually. I'm going to be sitting in for Will again. Will is going to be back on Tuesday. But I want to leave you with a special event, and that is Xavier University, their opera workshop, Carmen. They are presenting Carmen April 24th and 25th at the auditorium on Drexel Drive. Now, this is important because opera is coming back to Xavier. They're the first HBCU to stage a full-scale opera. And they are going to be doing this as it were, a big celebration of their legacy. The reason this is also special to me is when my dad was a student at Xavier University, he did a few operas, and one of them was Aida. And so I got the opportunity to grow up listening to stories about some great classmates of his who are at Xavier, but then also hearing voices, magical, angelic, black voices just do opera like we have never heard opera done before. We have talked about this season, about the great things happening. Take the opportunity, because I want to say this very clearly. We have had a great surge of black opera thanks to Opera Creole, and now thanks to Xavier. That needs to be noted, and it needs to be noted that black voices have done a great deal to elevate opera, not only in New Orleans, but around the world. So take the opportunity to check out Carmen at Xavier, April 24th, 25th, and support one of our great HBCUs. With that, I'm going to move aside. I'm going to get on out of here because Kimba and Graylin are coming. They're going to be doing the front porch. You're invited to come sit with them. You know that. Of course you are. I'm Eddie Francis, in for Will Sutton. Thank you so much. Happy Easter to you. This is the Good Morning Show, WBOK. What New Orleans is talking about all day long.